Welcome to the Don't Feed the Fear podcast, where we dive into the complex world of food allergy anxiety. I'm your host, Dr. Amanda Whitehouse, food allergy anxiety psychologist and food allergy mom. Whether you're dealing with allergies yourself or supporting someone who is, join us for an empathetic and informative journey toward food allergy calm and confidence. For many food allergy parents, navigating school systems can feel like a balancing act, managing safety, trust, and our children's needs while wanting them to thrive socially and academically. Today I'm joined by Lyndsie Iiams, a fellow homeschooling food allergy mom and a food allergy advocate who's sharing about her family's journey and all of the interconnected parts: homeschooling, managing food allergies, healthy living and cooking, living on a budget, and even a little bit of adorable fashion thrown in there. We talk about how both of our paths to homeschooling for our families began, the misconceptions, the surprising freedoms, the right and wrong reasons to do it, and the ways homeschooling has allowed us to create a learning environment that works for our families and our kids, and appreciating the privilege of having choices. We are not here to convince you to homeschool. We are not recruiting for the homeschooling squad, but we did want to have an open conversation about this because we know that there are people out there who are curious about it, just like we once were. Lyndsie, thank you so much for being here on the show. I am so excited to connect with you. We have so much in common, and I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
Of course, I'm so glad we connected and you were so open and willing to just get to know each other and talk about this thing that I feel like is not all that uncommon, but for some reason I just don't think we hear a lot about it out there, specifically within the food allergy community. Do you hear people talking a lot about homeschooling?
Um, Not so much like on social media, publicly,
Mhm.
but I am in a few like allergy mom groups where I see more homeschool moms. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking almost it's the opposite. In the allergy community, I don't see a lot of talk about it, but in the homeschool communities, I know a lot of the people are talking about their food allergies there. So it's kind of like, where do they overlap in that Venn diagram?
Right.
So you are on social media sharing about your homeschooling journey. How did you end up deciding to create this account to share about it?
Well, so we found out my kiddo had food allergies when he was 6 months old. And um, I just knew that I couldn't go back to work and I didn't really want to put him in a school setting. And I just felt so alone with food allergies. And I wanted the whole world to know that he has food allergies. If anybody ever spotted my kid out somewhere, I want them to know that he's the kiddo with food allergies, not to like separate him, but to keep him safe.
Mhm.
And so it just felt natural in a way for me to just talk about it and to spread awareness.
You have two kids?
I do.
Okay. Your younger son, does he not have any food allergies?
He does not. It wasn't always that way. When he was about 9 months old, he did react to garlic powder,
Mhm.
like full blown face hives and all over his neck. And so we got him tested, and he did positive through blood work to garlic. And then when we did that blood work, we had him tested for like a full panel, and then he came back allergic to peanuts. So I was very afraid that he'd be allergic to peanuts. But then when he hit about, it was 1.5 or 2, we did a food challenge with him for peanut butter, and he passed. And then eventually we did garlic years later, and he passed that as well. So,
That's good.
uh,
Garlic seems like it'd be very hard to avoid. I come from an Italian family, so maybe I'm biased,
uh,
but it's in almost everything, right? And it's not a top
right.
line.
Isn't everything. And actually, so our allergist was like, avoid garlic at all costs. But I was giving him sausage, just cut it up real small. And then I looked up the ingredients one day and I was thinking, I don't see garlic in this. I'm going to email the company. And they said, yes, we do, in fact, cook our, our sausage with garlic. So I had been giving it to him all the time, but it was cooked. I gave our allergist that, and they said, okay, well, we should move forward with like giving him a food challenge or, just keep on giving that to him. That's what we did.
How soon did you decide then that you were going to homeschool? When did you make the decision?
Oh, I remember mother-in-law saying to me, when it comes time to put him in school, and it was like immediate right when she said that, it was like, I don't think I can put him in school. I can't put him in a class full of 25 to 30 kids where you have one, maybe two teachers to safely educate him with all the class parties that you have and all the projects that are, have food that are involved. It was just immediate after she said that. And he was probably 2, I would think. But it was always in the back of my mind. Like I didn't want to drop him off at a daycare. I didn't want to put him in school.
Mhm.
And I'm from South Carolina originally, and there I got so much crap. I got so much feedback. And it was not comfortable, because homeschooling is not prominent there. And so I immediately became this parent that was, the helicopter parent. And, I was not doing the traditional thing of sending him to school. But then my husband got a job offer, which would ultimately put us in Oklahoma. And when we were considering that, I looked at the Oklahoma laws, homeschool laws, and they were free compared to what it is in South Carolina. There's a lot of rules and regulations. And it was kind of like, I think this is meant to be. I think we're meant to be in Oklahoma. And we moved out here when he was 5. Um, and that would be the year that we actually started homeschooling. And it was amazing because the neighborhood that we moved into, I mean, probably a third of us are homeschool families.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you know that? Is that how you chose your home?
No, no,
Oh my goodness.
no.
That's wonderful. I'm a little jealous as I'm hearing you talk because I'm in New York and we have a highly regulated homeschool law situation going on up here. So I just finished this week. My educational plans are due to the school district and I've got 3 kids spread out across all the ages. So I'm going through the checklist of hours and which subjects for each one. And it's totally worth it. I don't mind doing it.
Sure.
How free is it there? How much do you have to report and share with your school district that you're doing?
0.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Oh my goodness.
I know. But I keep records and folders of everything because I feel like not maybe one day it won't always be like that. And I like to, I'm one that protects everything at all cost. So yeah. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. And it's good, I think, just to track your own progress and know what you've covered and things like that probably too, right?
yes, I don't like to hold on to everything in life. Like I'm very minimalist, but when it comes to their schoolwork and their records, 1,000%, even their medical records, I've got medical binders. You just never know.
Well, as allergy moms, we're kind of primed to do that anyway, right? I'm thinking of my binders and folders of all the years and years of blood work and, putting them in Excel documents to compare them over time and all that stuff. It's a good skill to have if you're going to homeschool your kids.
Right.
I just keep thinking about how you moved into this neighborhood with all of these homeschoolers because I had such an opposite experience. I'm a school psychologist by training. I had no intention to homeschool either. We moved into this district that's like one of the best school districts. And of course, the school taxes are outrageous. And I set up this whole experience to have a wonderful, amazing school future ahead for my kids. And now we're not utilizing any of it.
Yes.
There are some homeschoolers in our neighborhood. I think people have this misconception that as homeschoolers, we are isolated. And of course, oh no, are kids getting socialized? That stereotypical question that we get. And here you are with a third of your community all right there together, homeschooling. Tell me what it's like for you.
Well, that part of it is amazing. But I did get a lot of kickback in the very beginning of, so your kids getting socialized. But being in this community, like we have a pond next door and a playground a couple houses down. And it it's just so funny because like this morning, with all intentions of waking up and doing our schoolwork, I kind of go with their flow, right? I don't want to push them. If they're not willing to sit down in our classroom, then I'm not going to get anywhere with them. They wanted to go fishing. My boys love fishing. And so They went to the pond, and then lo and behold, 15 minutes later, the kids down the street come over. And now school's already started in where we are, um, like public school. And
Mhm.
so, at 9:30 in the morning, they're fishing with other kids in the neighborhood. We just had a slow morning at that point. I had breakfast and got some quiet time to myself. And I walked out on the front porch with my cup of coffee in hand, and I just looked over at them. And that's just so gratifying for me. I
Mhm.
mean, they are socializing and they're outside, they're in nature, and they're doing what they love. And I let them spend an hour out there, and they came inside, and I sat down with my youngest, and he may have smelled like fish, but we knocked out language arts.
It sounds so picturesque, first of all. I think a lot of people are reminiscent for these childhoods that a lot of us had when we were younger that don't happen anymore because kids are so busy and overscheduled. And
It's true.
I think we disregard the wisdom that kids have. Like, if your kids woke up and it's beautiful outside and they just know what they need to regulate and be ready for school, and it's not diving right in, I bet he was so much more productive and attentive after doing that for a little bit.
Yes. Yes. They love basketball too. So it's like after we get done language arts, if you want to go down the street and play basketball for 30 minutes and then come back and let's tackle another subject, that's what we can do. You're right. It's very picturesque and I'm so grateful for it. But please don't get me wrong, not every day.
Right.
Not every day is easy and there are so many struggles. And there are questions of, can I do this? Am I, you know, qualified to be doing this? Should I be doing this? Would they be further along if they were in a classroom setting? But I'm just trusting the process. I believe that parents can be the perfect teachers.
100%. I even more so appreciate teachers now because I have 3 at home. I can't imagine having a classroom full of kids.
Absolutely.
No shade whatsoever to teachers or public schools or private schools, but at home, it's so individualized in terms of what they need to master something. So if reading at school is a 45-minute class, but my son only needed 15 minutes to grasp the concept, but then later in the day, math was harder for him and he needed more time with that. I think when you say, are they going to be behind or am I qualified to do this? I think as long as we're in connection with the kids and what they need, we can customize it so much to what they're actually needing. It's comparing apples to oranges. It's just so different that we meet their needs in a different way when it's so personalized.
1,000%. I love to see how their brains work, but what I need to equip their brains to work, right? So individualized learning. I have one kid that learns way different than the other. So, and also I give it teachers because like you said, you have three and I have two and it's hard.
What's the hardest part for you?
Oh, that is a great question. Um, I think the hardest part for me is just continuing to tell myself that I'm enough and that we're doing enough. Um, because I will always wonder. I think I will always wonder if they will eventually thrive off of what I've given them at home.
What do you do when that thought or that emotion pops up? How do you manage it or how do you work yourself through it?
I picture them at school where they've never been. And I think about them being there versus in the safety of our home. And I don't just say that with just food allergies. I think about a lot of things.
Mhm.
Um, and so I work through that way. I talk to my husband, I pray, and I ultimately just give them the best that I can and hope that God kind of fills in the gaps.
We can go with the flow in terms of what's coming up to us and finding a gap and then adjusting the sails accordingly. That's one of the things that when I fall into that spot, I remind myself it's necessary again when you're educating a large group of kids, moving them through to make sure that someone doesn't fall through the cracks. But if there are things that we acknowledge, whether it's academic or any other area that they need, we can have the freedom and the flexibility to take care of it when we realize it's a need, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
So, what's the easiest part or the best part?
Just the fluidity of homeschooling and like watching them think and being there for every moment and knowing like I have brought them this far. It's very rewarding in that part. Um, Knowing that they are learning under our roof and I am keeping them as safe as I can. Um, there's a lot of great parts. Just a couple days ago, we were playing a math game, and it was like a level that was a grade level above than what my youngest is at. And so my oldest already knew like all questions, right? I mean, it hit everything like fractions and addition, subtraction, multiplication. And when my youngest grabbed a card and it was fractions, and I knew that he hadn't done fractions yet, it's like, oh, I know that he's not going to know this, right? Because we haven't touched that. So, in fact, he did know, like, he knows half, like,
Sure.
it was like, what is half of something? But it was labeled as a fraction question. So I knew that it wasn't that we've touched base with, but he knows when something's on sale and 8% off. He knows how to do that math. So anyway, it's just knowing like where he is. Like it's knowing, I don't know. I think about parents who do send their kids off to school and it's like, how much do you know of what your kid has learned already? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I know every book that he's read, like every game that he's played. It's just knowing all those things is so satisfying and gratifying to me.
There's something to be said for having teacher after teacher and multiple adults in your kid's life that are a positive influence. But there's
Yes.
also for us something to be said of us holding that whole repository of information. And remember back in first, when you were 9 and we went to this museum, and we can connect some of the dots that can't be connected by teachers who haven't been there all the way through,
Yes.
I find.
Yes. Well said.
You made me think of one of my favorite parts, which I just thought was the coolest, most rewarding experience, was to be the one to see my kids' reading unfold, to see them unlock that and the way that the world opens up to them once they can start to read. And parents get to experience that with their kids too. But there just was a different level of that when I was the one giving that to them in a way. I don't know if have you had a
Yeah.
moment like that where it's like, this is the coolest thing I could give you?
Yeah, for sure. Reading is a struggle for one of my kiddos. So I wish I could have that same thing with reading, but definitely in different areas. I've had that.
It's so interesting how 2 kids in the same house, or in my case, 3 kids all in the same house, and one thing can come so easily for one, and for the other one, for it to be so different, and for them to each have their own strengths that I think we get to emphasize. It's all about you and what you need at every step of the way.
Yes. Yeah. Were you homeschooled?
I wasn't. Were
No.
you?
No, I wasn't. I kind
And
of wish I was.
I do too. To be fair, I love school. I was in a small town. I had great teachers. I'm still in touch with many of them. I had a great education and I have nothing against it. But yes, I wish that I could have been, because I would have just eaten it up, like being able to dive into subjects and to share them with my parents in a way that, when I was so excited about something new that I was learning. How about you?
Yes. No, I was not homeschooled. But I wasn't from a small town like you were. That sounds dreamy though.
It was very like old-fashioned, good old-fashioned childhood that I had. Your educational experience wasn't great?
No, it wasn't. I didn't learn a lot in school. We weren't pushed, it was like all about memorizing things just to take that test.
Mhm.
And so I am redoing my education with my kids. And I've said this multiple times. I will probably go to college with them too. We were part of a co op for 5 years. That was so fantastic. They did public speaking. And I looked at them from the time that they were 4 and 5, getting up in front of their class and doing these presentations. I'm like, man, this is amazing and what it's equipping them for. And they've come so far. They've come so far. I wish that I was just pushed more. And I was always, I think, seen as a smart kid in school. And I was, don't get me wrong, like I knew um, I knew how to study and to get ready for the test, but I didn't necessarily care about my academics. I was in all the clubs, um, but I would have loved to do this learning alongside my parents.
Well, and for me, it's really exciting now to get to do it. Like, you said you're redoing your education. And for me, that's really fun because I'm discovering now history is so fascinating. I love learning again the stuff that wasn't my strongest interest when I was younger. And I think it sets a good example of the fact that we can, right? I think the values around education have changed because we all have a computer in our pocket. So if you don't know the date of something, you can look it up. If you can't remember how to divide that fraction, you can look it up. But if you know how to learn, and even more importantly, if you like learning, like if you find it interesting when you don't know something to seek out the answer, I think that's more important than any specific information that they retain.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
You mentioned your co-op. I don't know if a lot of people out there who don't homeschool know that we have these groups. It sounds like maybe you're not in it anymore, but let's talk about
Yeah.
our co-ops a little bit.
Yeah. This is going to blow your mind, I think. When we moved here, it was just so perfect. Not only the community that we moved into, but the co-op that we joined. I had talked to the director and talked about our food allergies, and that was ultimately the reason why I started homeschooling. She moved me to a co-op where there were already kiddos that had food allergies. And most of those co-ops, it was like bring your own lunch to co-op kind of deal.
Mhm.
This specific co-op had a community lunch that just left out the allergens. And I think at the time that we joined, there was like a peanut allergy, a gluten allergy, and then we were coming in with milk and egg, or there already was a milk and egg allergy. So I became the lunch lady for the co op. I prepared lunch for like 40 kids that were gluten free, peanut free, milk free, and egg free. So I would assign each family to bring something. And yeah, it was great. We did that for 5 years. And I loved that because one of my fears was like, even in a co op, kids like eat snacks like Cheetos or something and then not wipe their hands and then everybody's sharing. And now you have this Cheeto residue on those crayons. And so, although like something topical, like my son does get hives if he touches his allergen, it wouldn't necessarily harm him unless he put his fingers in his mouth. But at that age, a younger age, I mean, that could happen, right? So, anyway, just having the community that I can control. We did have snack time, and I created a list of snacks that everybody could bring that was free of those allergens. It worked out really great.
What type of location did you meet in?
It was at a church.
Okay. All right. Ours wasn't quite as extensive as yours. The co-op that we're with now used to meet at a church and a school space in the church. And they also it's a peanut and tree nut free co-op. And then there are a lot of families with other allergens too. But we just don't do meals together now. When we first joined, oh my gosh. So I had kind of a nightmare experience when I first joined, and it wasn't the co-op's fault, but it was just the perfect storm of like life not going my way at that moment. But
Yeah.
so I had a 4-year-old, a toddler just over 1, and then he was almost 2, and then a baby just under 1. They were really close together, and showed up at this co-op trying to, join in and get myself out of the house with this kid that I just decided to homeschool, thinking all is going to be well, right? It's a peanut tree nut free co-op. But of course, the lunchroom where we ate was used by other people. So like the very first day, there was peanut butter smeared under the table, and my son got into that. And then we were in a music class, and my toddler ran away, and I didn't have anything to hold my baby in. So like some strangers holding my baby while I chased my toddler down. Then we go out for recess. There's walnuts all over the playground.
Oh
My
my
son
God.
starts getting hives. I scoop up all three kids and run to the bathroom. I leave my phone on the playground. One of the mom who was holding my baby earlier in the day that I didn't even know chased me down with my phone. And then Lyndsie, we get home and we happen to have contractors cleaning our like our air ducts in the house that day. I'm just like ready to come home and collapse and cry, right? And I put the youngest down on the floor who's not walking yet, and he just crawls across the floor and starts screaming. And I pick him up, and he has these little spirals of metal in his hands and his knees because apparently where they drilled into the metal ducts, they scattered these shards all through the house. One of the worst days of my life. But this co-op that I love and is amazing, the first day that I went there is like just a nightmare of all of these awful things happening.
Kudos to you for facing that and returning back.
Thank you. We finished that semester and we took a break, and then because it just with the little ones and him being so young, I don't know if I can accept the kudos fully because I did like shy away for a little bit. But now, so we don't have a central location, but we have field trips, we do some online stuff, we have clubs, we meet at different people's houses and get together all the time. But even more so, that it's so flexible. Like people can just create the same way you're co-opted, just create what works for them and for the families who are involved. It's not just the academics that are so individualized. The whole experience can be customized to the families involved.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Are y'all in sports at all, or do you have like sports teams?
My youngest is the only one who likes sports, and he does some community sports. The first and second didn't really care about it. About you? Because you said your kids play basketball too.
Yes, they both play basketball. One plays baseball, and my husband coaches both teams just simply because my kiddos have asked them to do that. And fortunately, he's flexible enough to do it. But we are just like the YMCA sports club in like our city youth group here.
Mhm.
But yeah, of course we don't play with the schools. We're still at like little league type stuff. It's
Okay.
working for us right now.
That's great. Apparently, the homeschool laws, which are different from state to state, say that the schools can allow homeschoolers to
Right.
participate, but they don't have to. So most of them choose not to. But I think it is tough just in terms of other kids getting that much more experience it's great if your kid can play on a school team and it's free, and I have to pay for every music lesson and sports event. But anything that my kids want to do that they might be getting as an amazing resource at school comes out of our pockets, which is a tough part of it.
You nailed it. Yep, 1,000%. It gets so expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly like on my social media, like I'm saying on a budget, we're on a budget, like we do this, but on a budget. Because I want to nail home that it's not easy and like you're making huge sacrifices.
I think people don't realize we still pay our school taxes. I've had people ask me that so many times, like, oh, if you don't send your kids, you don't have to pay, right? I'm like, oh, we still do. And then there's the income thing too. So I don't know if you were working before you had kids or thought you would have been, or maybe you still are. How do you navigate that part of things?
So I was working in banking when I had my oldest, and I did not go back after having him. Uh, because I wanted, if anything, I wanted to just work part time. I did get 12 weeks maternity leave, or yeah. I tried to go back as a newborn photographer at the hospital. That didn't work out. I just could not stand to be away from him. Of course, I'm breastfeeding and pumping and all the things. Um, and so my husband said, okay, just stay home. Let's do this. And for about 2 years, I was just at home, nothing for income. But then I felt like I needed income. I did vinyl for a long time. And then I started working for Pampered Chef. I mean, not careers, right? Just things to make a little bit of money at home. And then 2.5 years ago, I started Amazon influencing, and then like UGC creation, making videos for brands, and that's treated me really well. My kids can be involved. I'm a huge thrifter, and my oldest loves to thrift with me, and I resell. So, do I have a career? No, but I do help make income for the family.
Yeah. And you don't have to answer this if it feels too personal, but does that work for you? Because I think some people feel like that's fine. And some people feel like they're a person who really needs a career. There's no wrong or right, but I'm just curious how it feels for you.
Sure. I am totally happy with it and content and satisfied. Um, I I didn't have I don't have a college education. I didn't put a lot of money into school. And so I just kind of feel like this is my calling, is them first.
I think in a way we all find ourselves in this position of what my kids need from me is what I'm supposed to be doing, whether it involves a career or not. Obviously, I have tried to maintain my career and make it work for my family, which I'm so thankful is part of why we can homeschool, because I can, kind of be flexible. But I think all of us just want to
Yes,
do what's best for our kids and what we ended up needing to be as moms that we didn't know was going to be asked of us, right?
that's right. Absolutely. I mean, I love looking at other communities like kids with diabetes and just other things. Um, we kind of align in the same ways. Like I just follow so many other moms on social media who are doing everything they can to benefit their kids. You make it work.
Yeah, you just find a way.
Yeah.
I find that there are a lot of people, it's almost like this taboo thing. Tell me if people say this to you, but they're like, I kind of want to homeschool too, but I don't think we could make it work. And they don't talk about it, I don't think, much to people in their lives. And I just want people to know that even if on the surface it seems, which sometimes it is overwhelming, I don't know.
Yes.
Sometimes it is. It's amazing and overwhelming. Um, but there are ways to make it work and to be flexible with it that I don't think people know are possibilities. And I just would
Yes.
encourage people to look into it if they want to, but think they can't.
Yes, totally. And yes, I have had moms say that to me a lot. And I just want to scream and yell and say, if I'm doing it, anybody can do it.
Right. Right, we make it work just like everything else. I never thought I could raise a child with severe food allergies and, to the level of extreme reactions my kid used to have and figure out all of that, and I figured it out, and we would have figured it out if we ended up sending him to school as well, but just like that, you just learn as you go and you figure it out, right?
Right. You touched on a point there. So when my husband and I met, he could tell you that I was not a good cooker. I mean, I messed up blue box macaroni and cheese, and we laugh at that now at how far I've come, because now I've got my binder and my recipes, and I teach our kiddos to cook, and that's school too, right? And we have fun with it. And Scott and I, my husband and I, we used to eat out all the time when it was just him and I. And even when our son was just a baby, we would eat out a lot, as I think a lot of families do, or maybe they don't. I don't know, but we don't now. We cook everything.
Mhm.
And when we vacation where there's places where there's a kitchen where I can still cook. So yeah, I it's not even just the homeschool thing, but it's like, who knew that I could whip up a dish like that?
Right, and then the way you're describing it explains what I think at least it has become for us. It's all one big picture of what kind of life we're creating for our kids that we didn't set out to do. I wasn't homeschooled. I like I said, I'm a school psychologist. I fully intended to send my kids to school and work in a school and have the summers off with them. But it's all part of this picture of the way our life is unfolding. And people feel like, oh, you can't go to a restaurant on vacation. And I'm like, I saved $1,500 on my vacation because we didn't eat out 3 meals a day. And, no judgment to what you eat, but we actually like eating this way that we find is healthier for us. And all of these, they're all connected, right? It's not
It
separate
is.
little decisions.
It really is. My
So
goodness.
let's talk just a little bit more about the impact that you think it has on the actual food allergy management for you or for your kiddo. How do you find homeschooling to fit into that piece of the puzzle?
Well, it's really easy for them to go fix themselves lunch, and I know it's in the kitchen, and it's literally one less thing for me to think about. I mean, which is so helpful because even when we're out at a field trip, right? I'm always worried about the safety of our kiddos. So let's say we're fishing, all the kids are fishing. And even though my kids know how to fish and they're comfortable with hooking a worm and a hook, I'm still, my thoughts are still on their safety. And then kids bring out snacks and like, I'm talking to a mom, but I know that the kiddo that my kiddo is sitting next to is eating a pack of Cheetos. My mind is still on, managing that activity. So when I can put them in our home, in the safety of our home, with managing what I know what they're eating, it's just one last thing for me to think about. I mean, and they're professionals. They get in the kitchen. I'm not even kidding. They whip up a sandwich, and it's so nice that I no longer have to fix those lunches for them. And sometimes I do, if I'm making a salad and they want a salad too, I'll make them that salad. Or if we're out of a dressing, like a salad dressing, I make a lot of our salad dressings from scratch. Then I'll make that dressing for them real quick. It's just really nice. It's
Yeah. And such a good skill for your kids to have. I mean, I find the same with mine. Obviously, especially if you have food allergies, cooking is a great skill. And when they're home and able to do it, any kid can learn to cook, but when they're off at school and then they have activities afterward and then homework, there's not necessarily the time in the day to teach them to do it the way your kids can just, wander in and make something. So I love that they just happen to learn that and have the space to learn it in a natural way. Part of what you said that's really important too, the way that you feel when you're out and there might be an allergen in proximity or on surfaces, the kids that I work with are thinking about those things when they're in school. So not all of them, and obviously everyone's level of reactivity is different, and it's different with a kindergartner whose hands are in their mouth than it is with a 10th grader. But people will say like, well, there's allergens in the world. You can't protect them from them all the time.
yes,
Trust me, we know that, right? We
yes, yep,
understand. But can I remove that worry? Is this a child who would benefit from that worry being removed so that they can learn their best? Not
yes.
necessary for everybody, but I think for many kids that is really beneficial in their academics.
I completely agree. Completely agree. My oldest, he's always been one to not be like touchy with other kids. And when you get younger kids, like they touch a lot.
Oh yeah,
And
they're in your space.
and because he is homeschooled, I think he's not a touchy kid. And because also his food allergies. So maybe it's just not homeschool, maybe it is his food allergens, and he doesn't know where your hands have been, which trust me, as a mom, I'm totally okay with that. I've always been okay with that. But like at our co-op, there was like a hand folding activity, years ago, and like he was not feeling it. He kind of shut down, and even though that was his safe space, it was just like he didn't want to touch.
Mhm.
And so I had to tell him, hey, look, it's okay. Speak up. Use your voice. You're not comfortable with that. And so knowing that's how he was in a safe space, put that in a school setting, I believe he would have broken down and not spoken up.
Right. Right.
So
It's difficult for kids to do that for a lot of reasons. And I think you know this, but just to let you off the hook, I don't think he's not touchy-feely because of you being homeschoolers. I mean, I'm sure you do too, the whole range of it,
yeah.
from kids. And I think, that we do a lot of that in terms of like, oh no, at least I do. Is this because we homeschool him? Is he struggling with this, or is this way? And I think our kids are pretty much, we know as moms, well, yeah, that he was that way since he was two, right? So a lot of the stuff that we want to worry about, I think, is our kids are who they are, and we can expand upon that. We can celebrate it. We can teach them things that are more challenging for them, but I don't think we have to blame ourselves for, any of their traits or characteristics on homeschooling,
Yes.
because they're going to, for the most part, become who they are inside.
Yes, totally.
As we wrap up, what do you want people to know or understand about homeschooling, food allergies, the overlap of the two that we didn't get to?
I read something that you posted the other day, and it was along the lines of be careful, not fearful. And man, that has really resonated with me. And I have said it to Waylon, my son, a couple of times now. Um, so I'm going to use, take a piece of your puzzle and say that, because if you are considering homeschooling, but you're letting fear take over and talk you out of it, I would just say be careful and not fearful, because um, it's doable, and it gets better and it gets easier, and you learn, the years stack up on each other, and you learn from the last year what didn't work, and you can always modify things. Um, if you're considering it, but you think that you can't do it, please know that you are capable, and it may turn out to be the best thing that's ever happened.
Absolutely. And if it's not, you can change gears, right? You can
Yes.
always send them back if you want to send them back to school. And I think one of the things, I'm glad that that line resonated. I think it's just a really short, quick way to shift, right? To remind ourselves. And I want to say the same. Neither you or I are here trying to convince people that they should homeschool their kids. Like, we're not recruiting, right? We're just
No,
trying to
no.
talk about something that we love. But I also, I've talked to a lot of families in my therapy practice who want to homeschool out of fear. And I don't encourage them to do that. So,
Mm.
just as you're saying, don't be afraid of homeschooling, but don't also use homeschooling as a way to run away from all of the things that do cause you fear, because, that's not the place to do it from. We want to be careful about choosing the homeschool, not fearful, and we want to do the same with the allergy management. We don't want to just run in fear.
You nailed this. You nailed this. I've got to say this really quick. And thank you for saying that, because when after I had my second and I was postpartum and dealing with all the emotions, and then having my half-year old and then a newborn and then cooking all the things, just juggling all the things, I did go to a therapist because I was having like all kinds of depression and stuff.
Mhm.
And she asked me the same question that my mother-in-law had asked me at one point, like, what are you going to do when it comes to school? Right. And I had mentioned homeschooling. And so we dove into that. And she said, I need to tell you something. And I said, what is that? She said, it's great that you want to homeschool, but if you choose to do that, don't let food allergies be the reason that you homeschool. Find it within your heart to be the reason, because you may resent things later.
Absolutely. Choose it because it's what's right for you. And
Yes.
I think the benefit for me of food allergies is I never would have considered it. I never would have even thought of it as a possibility and discovered that it was such a good fit for us, if not. You
Right.
agree?
Right. Yes. And I have been asked, if it wasn't for food allergies, would you homeschool? Have you ever been asked that?
Yeah, I have. And 100%, I never would have even thought of it. You?
No, no. But man, I'm so glad. I
Me
mean,
too. Oh my
just
gosh.
because
And my kids are so glad.
I'm so glad, just because it works. Like it's a fit for us. That's why I say that.
Oh, good. Well, I'm happy for both of us. And I'm so glad that I connected with
Yes.
you. I know a lot of the people listening are going to want to follow you if they're not already. Every time I see what you share, it just makes me smile. So
Oh,
please tell people where they can find you.
sure. So I'm Lyndsie Lyndsiekay on Instagram. On TikTok, I'm Food Allergy Mama, Momma 2. I try to keep these things all the same
It's
everywhere.
not easy.
Yeah. And then I just created a Facebook. It's called the Lyndsie K Edit. And I like to be on all the things. So there you have
Wonderful.
it.
I'll put all of that in the show notes for people who want to find you. And I'm so glad that we got to connect and that you came here to chat with us about it. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you inviting me and having me.
It was fun. The message that Lyndsie and I want to leave you with today is that there's no one right way to educate a child. So if homeschooling has been on your mind for years, or this is the first time you've considered it, we hope that we've given you a little insight into our lives and what it's like and why we've chosen it. If homeschooling is not working for you or your child, whether it's due to food allergies or any other reason, we just want you to know that it's another option that is possible. So if you're curious, here are 3 action steps you can take to learn more. You can follow Lyndsie on all of her socials that she just shared with you. On Instagram at Lyndsie K, LYNDSIEKAY. On TikTok at Food Allergy Mama 2, and Mama is MOMMA. And on Facebook at Lyndsie K Edit. I'll also put all of those links in the show notes for you. Number 2, you can follow my social media. I don't always remind everybody here on the podcast that I am trying to start sharing a little bit more on Instagram and Facebook at the Food Allergy Psychologist. And if people are curious, I can share more about homeschooling, both from my perspective as a parent and through my professional lens as someone trained as a school psychologist and now homeschooling her own children outside of the public school system. Number 3, where Lyndsie lives, school is already back in session. Here where I live, kids are just gearing up to go back after Labor Day. Wherever you are in that process, consider this a reminder to just pause and think through how school is going for your child. What they or you are excited about for the upcoming school year, what maybe didn't work well last year, what they're dreading, what the challenges are, and think outside of the box in terms of considering solutions to those, whatever they may be. Our journeys might all look different, but we all share the same goal, which is helping to keep our kids safe, help them feel safe and supported in a way that allows them to do their best learning. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with a friend. If you're enjoying the show, leave a rating or a review so that the show can grow and we can continue learning from each other. Thanks for listening. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have any questions about your own medical experience or mental health needs, please consult a professional. I'm Dr. Amanda Whitehouse. Thanks for joining me. And until we chat again, remember, don't feed fear.